Caitlin Clark, big-time double-double. And before the game, Sophie Cunningham was asked about her comments that she made where she stood up women's sports, keeping biological men and boys out of girls' locker rooms, women's locker rooms. And she was asked about it. And Sophie Cunningham did not back down at all.
The Indiana Fever closed out the first half of their season with the loudest possible statement, and they did it on a night when the conversation off the court was already running hot before the ball was ever tipped.
On that same vein, in that story with ESPN, you talked about wanting to protect young girls who shouldn't have to go against biological men. Just can you expand your viewpoint on that?
I mean, I think I said what I said. I think it's kind of common sense. And I think I'll always believe in that. I think it's really important to protect children, and that's little girls who are also involved in that category. And so I stand on what I said, and I always believe that.
Yeah.
She did not back down. Bravo.
Days earlier, Indiana Fever guard Sophie Cunningham had become the center of a national debate after an ESPN feature captured her thoughts on transgender athletes competing in women's sports. Cunningham said she had received criticism accusing her of hating transgender people, and she rejected that characterization directly. She said she wanted to extend love, but that love came paired with honesty. Her stated position was that young girls in locker rooms and in competitive sport should not have to compete against biological men. She also pushed back on attempts to place her neatly on one side of the political spectrum, describing herself as someone who agrees and disagrees with arguments on both sides of the broader debate. The reaction was immediate and split sharply along ideological lines. Some fans and commentators praised Cunningham for using her platform to take a position many athletes avoid discussing publicly. Others accused her of aligning herself with a political movement that targets transgender people. It was not the first time Cunningham had waded into this territory. Years earlier, she had drawn backlash for resharing a post about a transgender swimmer competing in women's collegiate athletics, and this new interview reopened that same fault line, this time with a much larger audience watching her every game. That backdrop was still very much alive in the sports conversation when the Fever hosted the Connecticut Sun at Gainbridge Fieldhouse on July 22nd, in what was Indiana's final game before the WNBA All-Star break. Nobody watching that night could have predicted just how one-sided the basketball itself would be.
Now, right here, double technicals for Sanaya Rivers and Caitlin Clark, who exchanged words after a Connecticut foul. That's 7 technicals for Caitlin Clark, one more, and she will be suspended. I hope they rescind this one because I thought it was complete bullshit.
Caitlin Clark set the tone from the opening minutes. She scored 11 points and added 3 assists in the first quarter alone, catching fire from beyond the arc and converting her first 5 3-point attempts of the night. The Fever built a double-digit lead before the first quarter had even ended, and by halftime the damage was historic. Indiana poured in 70 points in the opening 2 quarters, the most points the franchise had ever scored in a single half. Clark contributed 21 of those points on 7 for 10 shooting, 5 of it from 3-point range, along with 7 assists, as the Fever carried a 24-point lead into the locker room at 70-46. The lead only grew from there. By the third quarter, Indiana's advantage had ballooned to as many as 34 points, and the Fever coasted into the fourth, still holding a comfortable cushion. When the final buzzer sounded, Indiana had won 123-88, setting a new franchise record for points scored in a single game and posting the 3rd highest scoring output in WNBA history without overtime. The Fever shot 62% from the field for the night and knocked down 11 of 22 3-point attempts as a team. Clark finished with 27 points on 8 for 13 shooting, 5 for 9 from 3-point range, and a perfect 6 for 6 from the free throw line. She added 11 assists, 2 rebounds, 1 steal, and 1 block in 27 minutes of play. It fell short of the career-high 45 points and 10 assists she had posted the previous week against the Seattle Storm, but the efficiency and the ease of the performance stood out on their own. She did not need to press. The blowout gave her the freedom to play within the flow of the offense rather than carry it alone. She was not the only Fever player who stood out. Kelsey Mitchell added 23 points, continuing a stretch in which she has scored at least 20 points with at least 3 made 3-pointers for 10 consecutive games, a run that has quietly become one of the more remarkable individual streaks in the league this season. Aaliyah Boston chipped in 22 points of her own, giving Indiana 3 players in double figures well before the reserves even entered the picture. Monique Billings and Tyasha Harris each added 12 points off the bench, further padding a scoring effort that touched nearly every player who stepped onto the floor. For Connecticut, the night offered little to celebrate. Diamond Miller led the Sun with 15 points, while Sania Rivers added 13, and Olivia Nelson-Ododa finished with 11. The Sun were already playing without Aaliyah Edwards and Brittany Griner, and the absences showed against a Fever roster clicking on every level. The loss dropped Connecticut to 7-20 on the season, continuing what has been a difficult year for the franchise. But the storyline that followed the Fever out of that gym had less to do with the final score and everything to do with a sequence in the third quarter that has become a familiar and increasingly contentious pattern around Clark this season. With under 30 seconds remaining in the third, Clark was fouled by Rivers on a play that officials correctly whistled as a personal foul. Clark's reaction was immediate. She threw the ball away in frustration and began exchanging words with Rivers, at one point gesturing toward the scoreboard as the lead ballooned further in Indiana's favor. Players from both benches and officials moved quickly to separate the two, and in the aftermath, both Clark and Rivers were assessed technical fouls. For Clark, that technical carried real weight. It marked the 7th she has picked up this season, putting her one technical foul away from an automatic one-game suspension under WNBA rules. The league's penalty structure escalates as the season progresses. Players are fined $500 for each of their first 3 technical fouls in a season, $1,000 for fouls 4 through 7, and $1,500 for every technical from the 8th onward, with an 8th technical foul triggering an automatic suspension, and every even-numbered technical after that carrying another one-game ban. For a player who has become the WNBA's biggest draw and the centerpiece of a Fever team fighting for playoff positioning, the accumulation of technical fouls has become its own subplot, separate from anything happening on the scoreboard. This particular sequence has drawn criticism from fans who feel the officiating around Clark lacks consistency. The original foul on the play was correctly called against Rivers, a call the broadcast and replay both supported. What followed, though, struck many viewers as an overcorrection, with a heated but brief verbal exchange resulting in matching technicals for both players in a game that was already decided by nearly 30 points. Critics of the league's officiating have pointed to nights like this one as evidence that referees are quick to reach for a technical foul without offering the kind of clear, consistent communication that would help players and fans alike understand where exactly the line is being drawn. When a call like this arrives in the middle of a blowout, with a franchise record being set and 3 separate players scoring 20 or more, the technical foul becomes the headline anyway. And that frustrates a fan base that increasingly wants the story of the night to be about the basketball itself. Clark, for her part, did not appear rattled by the growing tally. She has one more regular season game before the All-Star break, and both she and the Fever now enter that break with plenty to feel good about beyond the technical foul situation. Indiana improved to 17 wins and 10 losses, moving into 5th place in the WNBA standings and extending their winning streak to 3 games. Clark, Mitchell, Boston will all represent the Fever as starters in this weekend's All-Star game in Chicago, a fitting reward for a core that has carried Indiana through a season defined by both remarkable highs and constant scrutiny. Clark also confirmed she will not participate in this year's three-point contest, the event she was originally set to join the previous season before injuries forced her withdrawal. She chose not to take part again this year, leaving that particular storyline unresolved for at least another season. Taken together, the night captured something that has defined this Fever season from the start. The basketball has often been spectacular, punctuated by record-breaking offensive performances and a supporting cast that has grown more confident by the week. But surrounding nearly every highlight is a layer of controversy, whether it involves the officiating crew's handling of technical fouls, the broader cultural debate ignited by a teammate's public comments, or the ongoing questions about how the league manages its biggest star. Fans have made clear through their reactions that they want to see the talent on display, not just the flashpoints around it. They want clearer standards from officials and fewer moments where a technical foul competes for attention with a franchise scoring record. At the same time, they have shown real appreciation for players willing to perform at an elite level, and, in Cunningham's case, speak plainly about where they stand, even when that stance invites significant backlash. Whether that tension eases as the season moves into its second half remains to be seen. What is clear is that the Fever now head into the All-Star break with a winning streak, 3 All-Stars, a franchise scoring record, and a star player one technical foul away from a suspension that would sideline her heading into the stretch run. Every element of that combination will be under a microscope when play resumes, and Indiana's ability to balance its offensive firepower with the discipline needed to avoid another costly technical foul may end up shaping how the rest of this season is remembered.